Hi everyone! Welcome to my Unsync Guide for Alphascape version 4 Savage. This guide is for a full party with item level higher than 480 and is intended to help new players. In this fight, you must first defeat the door boss and should encounter only one major mechanic, Fundamental Synergy. After defeating Omega M and Omega F, you will be given a save point, and the party can continue at the start of Omega's final form before the lockout. My name is Lauren, and today I'll be your audio raid guide. Before engaging Omega M, split the party into 2 groups and ensure that 1 tank, 1 healer, and 2 DPS are in each. Next, place a marker in each cardinal direction on the platform. Lastly, all players will need to take note of the giant eyeball behind Omega M. This large optical unit will be used to indicate the correct positioning for Fundamental Synergy. This giant eyeball will relocate to a random cardinal position early on in the fight, so be sure to keep an eye on it. The main tank will begin the fight by pulling Omega M towards the east edge of the platform in preparation for suppression. The rest of the party must avoid standing in the middle of the stage and should spread themselves out accordingly. Omega M will start by casting Synthetic Shield followed by Suppression, a large linear AoE down the center of the stage. After the AoE goes off, the optical unit will teleport to a new cardinal location. Next, Omega M will cast Beyond Defense, dashing towards one random player, and applying a magic vulnerability debuff to them and any other players near them. Be sure to practice social distancing to avoid clipping each other. Omega M will then immediately hit another random player with Pile Pitch, a strong stacked magic attack. All players not hit by Beyond Defense must stack with at least 1 or more players to share the Pile Pitch damage. Omega M will then cast Subject Simulation F, transforming himself into his female counterpart, Omega F. Upon taking shape, Omega F will instantly cast Discharger, a raid-wide knockback, so be sure to position yourself towards the inside of the stage. After the knockback, the main tank will position Omega F in the middle of the stage and face her towards the giant eye in preparation for the next set of mechanics. She may also cast Advanced Suppression, commanding the optical unit to shoot a very large AoE in front of it. Omega F will use Subject Simulation M and place 2 stack markers on each healer, splitting herself into both male and female entities. Group 1 will immediately move to the west cardinal marker relative to the giant eye, and Group 2 will move immediately to the south cardinal marker, directly across from the giant eye. After the stack damage, both bosses will reform, and Omega F will immediately cast Discharger, and Omega M will immediately cast Efficient Bladeworks, a large circle AoE. Both groups will need to quickly move towards Omega F to get knocked back safely by Discharger. Next, players will move back to their respective marker and will continue to fight both bosses separately in preparation for Firewall. During this time, the tank in Group 1 will move the boss towards the eye to make sure the boss is not on the cardinal marker. This correct prepositioning of the boss is important to handle Fundamental Synergy. Firewall will place a filter debuff on all players, rendering half the party unable to attack the other boss. Next, both bosses will cast Resonance, giving them either a local buff or remote buff. The local buff grants both bosses massive damage and defense boosts when they are close together, and the remote buff grants them the same buffs when they are apart. The tank in Group 2 will be responsible for resolving the Resonance mechanic by bringing their current boss close to Group 1 or pulling them apart, so pay close attention to the boss's buff icon. The window to move Group 2's boss to the correct position here is extremely fast, so be sure to stay vigilant. Fundamental Synergy marks each player with a marker for Omega F and Omega M to attack in ascending order. Although there are two patterns that can occur, we will deploy the exact same strategy to handle both versions of Fundamental Synergy. 4 players will be marked with Omega F's purple pyramids ranging from number 1 to 4, while the other 4 players will be marked with Omega M's blue cubes ranging with the same set of numbers. Very shortly, Omega will cast Advanced Suppression, commanding the optical unit to shoot a very large AoE in front of it, and start to dash to their respective markers in ascending order, dealing damage based on distance traveled. In this guide, we will use the color box strategy. Step 1. If you have an odd number which correlates to the odd number of blue cubes or purple pyramids above your character, you will always run to the opposite side of the boss you are currently fighting. If you have an even number, you will continue to stay on the same side of the boss you are currently fighting. Step 2. Now that everyone is on the correct side, we decided to separate by color, with blue cubes players always standing inside the cardinal marker, and players with purple pyramids will always be in the intercardinal location. All players must make sure they are standing in the outer ring pattern of the platform, or the bosses will tether together, especially during the local pattern. Step 3. The lower number player will stand slightly in front of the bigger number player, and when his or her corresponding boss dashes into them, they will immediately switch positions. We will now look at the mechanic window for the harder pattern of this mechanic, the local pattern. Following the charges, both bosses will cast Laser Shower, a raid-wide AoE, followed by Solar Ray, a magical AoE tank buster on both tanks. Next, Omega M will use either Synthetic Shield or not. If Omega M does not use Synthetic Shield, we will see the blade pattern. In the blade pattern, Omega F is going to cast Superliminal Steel, which hits the area to her left and right with a big AoE. At the same time, Omega M will send out a pile pitch attack on a random player. Next, Omega F will use Optimized Blizzard 3 without any indication, so be sure to immediately move into an ordinal direction to avoid it. Omega F will cast Superliminal Motion, a 340 degrees AoE with a safe spot right behind her back. After the AoE goes off, Omega M will dash to a random player and cast Efficient Blade Works followed by Optimized Fire 3. In the shield pattern, Omega F will jump to the middle of the stage and hit the platform in all cardinal directions with a telegraphed Optimized Blizzard 3. At the same time, a random player will get hit with Beyond Defense from Omega M followed by a pile pitch. Shortly after, Omega F hits every player with an Optimized Fire 3, and Omega M will jump to another random player and cast a raid-wide donut AoE and cast Efficient Blade Works shortly after. Congratulations on the first victory of the fight! Remember not to jump off the platform before the limit break gauge resets, or you will not receive the save point. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know. As always, thanks for watching and happy farming!
Oh, is it? Yeah, there he goes. Oh, he tried to rescue him off. Almost.